Hi guys, welcome to our podcast, The Path Bakers. I am your co-host Jayesh.
I am your co-host Vishal.
Today we are interviewing somebody who has scaled very high with this product, Mr. Shreekant. He is with us, and let's begin.
So before we begin, if you can just give us a sneak peek into your journey so far and how did it all start and what are you doing currently?
Right. So, first of all, hi everyone. My name is Shreekant. I'm very old, ancient in today's thing. And I started my entrepreneurial journey way back in 2004.
Why is it? Wow.
And yeah, it's obviously I didn't want to be an entrepreneur, but let's not talk about that. But you know, it all started when I wanted to be a musician, to be honest.
Right.
You know, I was learning the guitar since like very young age and stuff, and I wanted to buy electric guitar in 2004.
Okay.
And I didn't know how to go about it. Obviously, I cannot ask my father to buy an electric guitar in 2004. So, you know, a friend of mine, you know, who was my bandmate actually, he told me that, hey, you know what, my twin brother, he works for this company in Silicon Valley and he earns a lot. And I'm like, okay, so that's very good for him. And he's like, no, listen. So the thing is that, you know, he actually wants, you know, they want someone who wants, you know, maybe some guy who's interested in business. And I'm like, okay, I'm the one. if I can, like, you know, earn money, and you know, that's really cool because obviously, you know, being a musician does not earn money, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, they will interview you. And I'm like, okay, if they are in the US, how will they interview me? And they were like, hey, you know what? They will interview you on Yahoo Chat.
Oh, yeah.
These are the days of Yahoo
days,
Chat,
those
right?
were the days.
And then basically, I still remember. Obviously, by the way, just like some unnecessary trivia from my side, I got my computer way back in 1996. And I got my, you know, so basically those were the dial-up days.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was the 13th person in Mumbai to get MTNL connection.
Oh, awesome.
You know, and obviously I was not coding or anything like that, but, you know, I was actually just playing
Those
games.
days, yeah, those days.
And downloading music. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's why, so I had internet, but on that day, it was raining during my interview. Obviously, I did not have internet, right? So I had to go to a cyber cafe. And then afterwards, like, you know, the person comes from Silicon Valley and says that, hey, you know what, can you like do stuff on Excel? And I'm like, yeah, maybe I can. Yeah, of course I do. And he's like, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, maybe I'm interested in business, or maybe I'll be like, you know, studying for MBA or something like that. That was all bullshit. I just wanted the job.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's fine, you're hired. And I'm like, wow, okay. I didn't even like bother asking him how much salary I'll be getting and stuff like that.
Obviously.
And yeah, I was too naive, and you know, and he said that, yeah, that's fine, you know, so all you need to do is that, you know, you need to do this, you know. So like today, everyone was like, is figuring out about, you know, Web3 and AI and that kind of stuff. I was figuring out Google Analytics.
Oh, okay.
I was figuring out Google AdWords, you know, that kind of stuff. Because back
Back
then in
those
2004,
days.
right? Because the only way probably, you know, if you actually look at the business model, the only way you could actually earn money was from ads, right?
Ads, yeah.
Right? So, you know, so I was working for this website called yousendit.com.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do remember. It
I
was a
remember
massive website.
Yeah,
I was the 5th employee there.
Okay.
And I was like, I was responsible for basically their revenue, and what in today's world, like, you know, people are like the growth guys and the number
numbers.
guys, the revenue guys, and
Top lines,
I am
yeah.
none of them, right? You know, that kind of stuff. But it was so interesting because I still remember back then these guys were earning, you know, just when I was like starting, these guys were earning $3,000 per day.
Back in that time.
In 2004, and I was responsible for everything, and I was like, you know what, screw this shit, I'm so interested, what are they doing, right? You know, in just like about 3 months of time, I was working 18 hours. Obviously, these guys are not asking me for this. I was just so interested in learning everything what is actually happening that I was just working like 18 hours. And my father is, by the way, a retired judge.
Okay.
And he would think that, you know, what is this guy doing? He's like behind the closed doors. He's like working something and that kind of stuff. And then afterwards, when he actually finally started seeing my paycheck, believe it or not, he actually went to the Canara Bank manager and said that, please trace where this money is coming from, because I think that my my son is either into some kind of gambling or some kind of pawn stuff or something like that.
That he shouldn't be doing it.
And this is like, and believe it, like, in just 6 months time, I was earning like really cool, because obviously this is, what I was like doing, and these guys are really happy with my work. And, I was just like, helping them scale a lot. And, this thing happened for 2 years.
Okay.
Right. And then afterwards, that's when like I realized that, okay, you know what, this is my first and my last job that I'll be ever doing. I don't know what I'll be doing, but I'll be like, working on my startup. So basically what happened is that, something went down at YouSendIt when, actually basically, and the founders themselves were fired by the VC. Right. And obviously when everyone says that, you don't work for the company, but you work for your managers, right? And I was like, screw this. YouSendIt was my, like, my managers, which were the co-founders.
Right.
If they are not there, I'm not there. I'm out of it.
Yes.
And then basically I quit YouSendIt for the biggest mistake of my life, which was MBA. Right? And that was MBA in the UK. In the first year itself, I realized that, okay, this is not for me. I have to come back. This is in 2006, right? Not for me. I have to come back. My father was like, we don't care what you do. You have to complete your MBA and you have to come back, right? And I'm like, okay, fine, fair enough.
Indian parents.
Fine. I won't blame them, of course, right? I came back, started 2 other startups. They were angel invested by the YouSendIt folks and some other guys from the Valley. Failed miserably. This is 2007, right?
Okay.
And then afterwards, like, I'm really sad, like sitting in my bedroom again and thinking like, what should I do next? And then, I was really interested in comics.
Okay.
And what I did is that, I was like, yeah, screw this. You know what? I'm just gonna start a comics website. And I started the comics website from my bedroom. I had these guys from Assam. I don't know. Don't ask me how did I get in touch with them or how they got in touch with me. But in 6 months time, I scaled that startup that is a website, to top 60,000 websites of the world.
Okay. Fantastic.
And that was really amazing. And like I was like earning again, back in the game, like earning shit ton of money. But then I knew that, okay, this is, I need to, get like, work on a different alternate business model and that kind of stuff. But before that, it got acquired by this Bollywood producer. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Wow. And then that was like really cool experience. And then afterwards in 2007, iPhone was launched.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, App Store was launched. And I was like very sure that, okay, apps are going to take over the world, which they did, of course, right? Yeah. But then, of course, if you want to start an app business or anything like that, whatever, you need to go to Bangalore, right?
Bangalore, yeah.
And so I took a one-way ticket to Bangalore.
Oh, okay.
And then in 2009, I went there. I hired one part-time dev.
Okay.
Right? And I scaled that company to 70 people in just 2 years' time.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Right? But the thing was that, this time I was very sure that I will not raise any outside investment. Yeah. Also, it was way early.
Why was that idea of not raising funds?
Yeah, because I had done this before, right? I had it, and obviously it is not a good feeling to
work for it. It's like working for somebody else.
No. I mean, to raise money, right? I mean, if you want to raise money, obviously there's a lot of responsibility. You need to give the returns to the investor. They are not just like doing it only just for fun, right? And that kind of stuff. It's not a good feeling,
multiples.
Right? And obviously, it's always like a chip on the shoulder, right? That, if you are taking, it's a responsibility, right? And also I've seen that, I mean, if you wanted to, do business, I do believe that, I don't believe in this thing, but if you want to, all these SMEs, right? That kind of, everywhere, back then in Bangalore, it was just run by all services companies, right?
Yeah.
Nobody believed in product or innovation and that kind of stuff. However, what I wanted to do was that, have like a model in place, right? That, bootstrap it, earn money from the services and invest in the product.
Reinvesting into the product.
Yeah. Right, that's what, and this is way back in 2009, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I started doing, right? We were doing decent amount, but like, our product, we were thinking very ambitious. And what we were trying to do is that we were making like a mobile ad network, because obviously again, like, App Store was just launched.
Right.
There were these many ad networks which were like, doing really, really well, which means that, allowing all these App Store developers to like, host their ads, and then afterwards you earn from the arbitrage, right?
Okay.
The mistake that I did there was like I had like bunch of like PhDs, and all they were doing is just like drawing things and that kind of stuff.
Gosh.
No execution. But on the services side, we were making like decent revenue, and that was like growing. But that was a challenge that I knew that okay, that's gonna be a challenge because I was getting carried away.
Okay.
But the revenues were coming in. We were growing. We were 70 people. But I knew that if I wanted like that kind of multiples on the business, that would only come from product innovation.
Right.
Yeah.
And we could not like actually pull that off. In 2011, just 2 years after that, we got like acquisition offers. I won't be able to name them, but obviously we were doing like revenues of about north of around $350,000.
Okay.
And the best acquisition offer that we got was like $800,000.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. 3 times almost.
Which is pretty not bad,
Not
right?
bad,
Not bad at
not
all
bad
for a
at all.
services company.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But for a product, well, yeah, when I was like, hey man, if I cannot be a millionaire before I turn 30, it does not make sense. And obviously I could not, see myself, doing this, because services business is like in and out. Like there's a lot of work which is involved,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Not just like the sales, but like servicing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It is difficult, right? And at that time, what happened was that my father had untoward health incident related to diabetes, and I was like, okay, maybe and I came back to Mumbai to take care of his health. It was diabetes related.
Right.
Now, by the way, I did not tell you guys is that I'm actually a bachelor in pharmacy, and so and since I had like an app dev experience as well, right? I thought that maybe I can solve the problem of diabetes management.
Okay.
Right. There was only one problem, but now is that I had seen this massive 70 people organization, and this time I wanted to build a very lean team, because that's what if you're building on a product, that's what really makes wonders, right? So what happened was that I came back, but there was only one problem, is that I could not code.
Okay.
So I started taking coding lessons from
So you started learning yourself rather
I
than hiring
did.
someone. Oh,
I did. From a
that's
20-year-old.
fantastic. Right.
Very
So,
good, very nice.
and within like 6 months time, I was coding in C, C++, Objective-C.
Okay.
And then afterwards, I got in touch with my co-founder, my then co-founder, Himanshu Jain.
Okay.
He's running a very successful startup right now called Khayal. You should actually check him out as well.
Okay.
And then afterwards, we both got in, and we just said that, okay, what, this is a great space. The diabetes management in 2011, nobody was even like looking at it.
True.
But there was only one challenge which was involved, but obviously we were young. We thought like we can definitely take on it, was that it involved a hardware.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And hardware is hard, obviously, but we were like, we were really at it. We were really at it. Believe it or not, it took us 5 years just to build the product. To build the product, because there was a hardware component involved, right? Yeah. It took us 5 years to build the product.
Where did you find the hardware? I mean, how?
We built it ourselves.
Yeah.
We
so
built
did you
everything.
source it from China or something, or
No, we built everything. Like it
is
was our entire proprietary thing.
You had a manufacturing then? Okay,
Yeah,
sort of.
So first we did our first run in China, then we did it in India.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But now there was a problem there as well. Is that we were here in India. We thought that India is like the diabetes capital of the world.
Obviously. Yeah.
So it will sell. Wrong.
It did not?
No, not at all. It's just that people were, first of all, what it did was that it was a
what
small
was the
hardware.
product? Yeah. Of course.
It was a hardware device that would plug in with 90% of the glucometers which are available in the market.
Okay.
And it would wirelessly transmit the readings from the glucometers into your smartphone.
Okay.
And from the smartphone, it would push onto a remote server which then basically, the remote healthcare, the care team would take care of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, but the thing here is that people here in India just do not have the concept of managing your diabetes.
Diabetes, exactly.
People think that, oh, you know what, I'm gonna take this Ayurvedic stuff and I'll be okay. I'll do this thing and I'll be okay. And that kind of stuff. Of course, it's not. Nothing works. But, obviously, and then, basically we would go to the doctors and they were like, hey, you know what, no, this is not going to work, because the doctors themselves were not educated here in India.
Right.
At all.
Unfortunate, but yeah.
Right, it is unfortunate. There was one incident as well that one very reputable doctor, he took my hardware and threw it on the wall. Those were the days, right? I mean, these are the days as well, right?
Because of the zero awareness that people had.
Zero awareness. And then afterwards, we had raised some small amount of money.
Okay.
And then what happened was that, our investors, and we also thought that, this does not make sense. B2C does not make sense in India.
Okay.
Right? We should
it
go
was
to
back
the US.
then probably, yeah. So that is,
even now.
even
B2C in healthcare it is a bit difficult, because
very
everything
difficult.
gets routed through doctors only.
Exactly.
Till date.
Exactly. It's super difficult.
okay.
So I said, okay, you know what? That's fine. I will move to the US. I did move to the US.
Okay.
And when we went to the US, within the first few months itself, obviously our sales effort was completely B2B. Having said that, we had we started getting traction. We had users in 42 countries.
Okay.
Our first client was Care Innovations, which was like an Intel company as well, which was B2B as well. All these things happened in just a matter of 8 months of me moving to the US, right?
Okay.
And then we already, just came to know that, okay, B2B is what is going to work in the US.
Yeah.
Primarily because that's how the healthcare system works, right? B2B and the payers is something which is going to work, and that's exactly what worked. And within me moving, in just 8 months, we got acquired by this massive medtech giant called Livongo.
Okay.
And then Livongo was then acquired by Teladoc, which is another huge Nasdaq listed company for massive
So
$14
this
billion.
acquisition was a very good acquisition.
It was a great acquisition. We made for our early investors 200x.
Okay.
Right, it was a great
phenomenal,
thing,
yeah.
and exactly that's what it is. And just one decision just flipped it, is basically focusing on from B2C to B2B.
Yeah, right.
And moving out
Else
of
it would
India.
have been labeled as a failed product in India.
Otherwise, it would
yeah.
it would So that's
did-
what completely changed.
How
right?
did this happen? Sketchnote happen?
So after that, basically what happened was that obviously we I had to as a part of the acquisition, I had to work with the acquiring organization. So I was heading their India operations here for 2 years.
Okay.
And after that, basically what happened is that one of my investors and my board members, he got in touch with me, and he said that he was then in Japan, and I was visiting Japan, and what was happening is that a lot of accelerators from India and from abroad would get in touch with me and said that, hey, why don't you mentor our startups?
Okay.
And I would be like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
So there was one accelerator which was a women focused accelerator, and they were funding women startups who were working on hardware, right?
Okay.
And and then I realized that when you are actually mentoring startups, you need a lot of hand holding, and most of them, 90% of the time, it is these questions just keep on coming. They are people, they repeat, the questions repeat. So what I thought that maybe if I make a repository of all of these things, a library of sorts, which are necessary for these startups, that would be very cool. And I was just doing it just for fun. That's it, nothing else, right? There was no monetary thing. I was just that kind of stuff. And anyone was asking that, how do I find a co-founder? And I'm like, yeah, go to this website, check this out. Or how do I, raise money? Or how do I raise my pre-seed? On what vehicle should I? I'm like, yeah, go here and check it out, and that kind of stuff. And then I was just telling my my today's co-founder, Julio Arias, who is and I told him that, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, this sounds really interesting. And I want to quit my job and I want to work with you. And I'm like, really? Are you sure? And I'm like, he's like, yeah, sure. I want to do that. And then basically what happened is that, we started working on startups. Right? And then we thought that, okay, the startups required these kind of help and that kind of stuff. And we thought that, okay, maybe if we start charging like some small amount and raise like and basically, make like a SaaS platform for these startups, for all of these things, that would be really cool. Obviously, the hypothesis, it may sound very appealing and that kind of stuff.
But we had like, when you do it,
yeah, exactly. No, but the thing is that people were coming in.
Okay.
In the first 6 months itself, we got like 4,000 users, but nobody was ready to pay.
Yeah, that's
because startups don't have money.
That's the problem with it.
That is the problem with the Indian ecosystem. People want something for free first.
And they would be like, hey, you know what? Notion has this program where like 6 months, HubSpot has this 6 months free program and stuff like that and stuff. So what they would do is that, once the Notion program is over, they would come to us and they would be like, hey, can you give us like 6 months free? And I'm like, okay, you know what? This is a great charitable, like very cool thing, but you cannot make money out of it, right? Yeah. We started seeing great traction from agencies.
Okay.
Right? Because what was actually happening is that these agencies, they are like,
what are these agencies?
Yeah, exactly. They were like marketing agencies, or basically like creative agencies, ad agencies, web design agencies, dev agencies, interior design agencies. They would be like coming in and they would be like, use the platform very, very frequently. And these are the ones which are like, agency owners who are like SMEs, very bootstrapped, some of them even making like $1 million ARR, having like 50 people, 75 people team, like doing great business. These are the ones which are like, cash flow businesses. And they were looking for like these kind of, SaaS solutions, which is like kind of like now we have coined this term called as agency management software.
Yeah. Okay.
Where Zoho and Monday and those kind of things, it's like they have done like a very horizontal platform.
Yeah.
And then what we like, we took a conscious decision last September to pivot from being a very horizontal platform, SaaS platform for all of these startups, to focus on agency owners.
Okay.
And agency owners who are like, 50 people or less, right? And that kind of stuff. So from September onwards to now, we've got 24 paid agencies.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
And that's what, and the problem that we are actually solving for them is that if you actually look at it, if you are an agency or for a service-based agency, right? If your agency has like clients which are Indian or abroad and that kind of stuff, the main challenge that, they have is transparency or accountability.
Right. So Shreekant, you said in this past 10 to 12 years, there's been continuous shift from the product. So you failed, you said, with the B2C business in this. How difficult, what are the difficulties rather, an entrepreneur like you faces throughout? I mean, what all things, financial, managing the investors, employees, or, outsourcing product development. What are the big challenges that you can highlight here?
Yeah, sure. So, my biggest learning was that, prior to 2015, it was building a product was challenging.
Okay.
Right? Because if, you build the product and that was very difficult because, you had like very less technologies and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But marketing was very easy. It's just that, you email people and people would read the emails because how many emails would you get, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. Right. But after 2015, the entire scenario has like shifted so rapidly. The technologies are happening, are coming so rapidly.
Yeah.
And in today's world with everything and that kind of stuff, these 5-year-olds are coding.
Yeah.
So building the product is much easier. It's still difficult, but it's much easier as compared to
because
before.
Because you have those tools now today.
Exactly. And also like, it is democratized, right? Yeah. Technology is democratized.
Absolutely.
However, marketing and getting your product in front of people is the most difficult part because you see that on an average, I get like about 200 emails a day. How are you going to just like differentiate yourself as a business, especially if you're a B2B business, from the clutter?
Yeah.
Advertising has become so difficult, right? All these advertising on Facebook, Twitter, etc. and that kind of stuff is super difficult on LinkedIn. So nowadays, like it has always been like this, but nowadays it's more that if you want to raise money, you raise money for 70% of your marketing and sales spends and 30% for building the product.
Yes.
Right? In fact, in today's world, what I would do is that, I would, again, that is also another challenge. People say that build your community first, right? But building a community is so difficult as well because you think about it.
It takes time.
It takes time. You think about it, and there's already a community for that thing,
True.
right?
True.
And that kind of stuff. So, and also people have become very smart. If they get involved, invited for a community or something, they would know that okay, there is some ulterior motive of the original poster and that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So you need to be genuine.
So Shreekant, you are also an investor. Okay, you invest in upcoming startups.
Yeah.
So if you can just tell us what are the pointers that you consider, or what kind of startups do you invest in?
Right.
What are the thought process before you invest in a particular startup?
Right. So basically, I usually invest in at a very early stage. And at a very early stage, obviously, what happens is that I only just see whether this founder is not gonna give up, right? Because it's all about the founder. Because again, as I said, that the market is like changing so rapidly, you cannot foresee what is gonna happen after 1 year or 2 years. Like the landscape changes, that kind of stuff.
So primarily the founder and founders thing.
The founder's pedigree, but in the only question I can ask and basically is that, do you have what it takes to pick up the phone and do the cold call?
Okay.
If you can, I think you've
So
already
basically
won
the
50%.
selling.
It is all
skills,
about, at least for today's world, right? It is all about, right? It is all about
everything
that.
matters on that.
So that's what I do believe in, right?
So because at the end of the day, that is what brings in the numbers.
Exactly.
That is what matters. Actually.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's what it
So
is.
the founders are very key when you invest.
Absolutely. So basically, again, just like I invest very early on. So basically, like pre-seed stage. If there is traction, well and good. That's amazing. But as a thesis, I don't invest in Web3 and I don't invest in hardware startups.
Staying on the same subject, so you see a lot of startups are focused on. Founder is right, but it's more on what is the product and what is the future of that product or services, whatever it is. So how do you plan, say, for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the line, or foresee that how the startup goes? Now, what is your thoughts when you are putting in money today? As you said, it's quite early, and not only just the founder. I mean, you cannot invest only on founder per se. So how do you foresee that?
No, so the thing is that, again, as I said, that the market is changing so rapidly in today's world, right? As I said, so I invest very early on, right?
Okay.
So very early on, pre-seed check, that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
So when that actually happens, it's very difficult to actually just check. So basically, I just see that if there is a market at it, but again, if there is a market at it, you will have a lot of competition.
Right.
Yeah. Which is already there. So if there is a lot of competition, you are not exceptionally good in the product as well, right?
Okay.
So if you're not exceptionally good, then you have to be exceptionally good in selling.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? That's what it is. That's the pedigree that I can actually just look at it. So
Okay.
it's a market, because market actually pushes as well. It will get you to a certain stage, right? But if you are a great salesperson, right? See, as a startup founder, what are you doing? You're doing, just before we actually started the conversation as well, right?
Yeah.
You're constantly selling. You're constantly selling to your wife. You're constantly selling to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your parents, your in-laws, your employees, your investor, your client. So as a founder, that's all you're doing. You have to sell.
Yeah.
So you cannot say that, I don't have it in me. I cannot pick up the phone. I cannot make that cold call. That kind of stuff. That's what it is.
So Shreekant, to just wrap it up, we started this conversation with you being interested in music. I read somewhere that due to some cash crunch, you had to sell your guitar, and then you bought it back for 3 times the price. So what was that emotional attachment, or what was the kind of thought that you paid for 3 times the money for an old guitar? If you can just
exactly. That's what it is, right? I mean, even today I stand by it, right? That obviously, when you start seeing, especially like, that's what I keep telling everyone as well, that if there are co-founder fights, there will be like, there will be only 2 situations when you will be having like co-founder fights: when your startup has no money and your startup has too much money.
Too much money. Universal, yeah.
Right,
if
that kind of
everything
stuff.
goes fine, nobody is bothered.
Exactly. Why will anyone bother, right? And that kind of stuff. And all these stress level and everything, that kind of stuff happens. And like, founders always attach their alter ego to their businesses, because they are like, if business succeeds, I have made it. No, dude, you've not made that business successful. It's the people behind you that who have
Yeah,
made
yeah,
it,
absolutely.
right? That kind of stuff.
Ultimately, it's the
But they always, founders have this, onto them.
I did it.
And if the business fails, obviously that is the worst thing as well. That they say that, okay, business has failed, which means I have failed.
Yeah.
Right? It's basically, and then, obviously then these mental things which nobody talks about, which everyone should be talking about,
Yeah.
which nobody talks about, right? And that kind of stuff. But during Diabito, we didn't have money, so I had I had to sell my business to basically do a payroll.
So there is an emotional attachment.
Exactly, that's what it is, right? So all of these things make me up, right? And not just a business, not just the startup. In fact, least of it, to be honest, right now. That I am now 41, I realize that, right?
True.
Because after 20 years or something like that, you will just realize that, oh, you know what? I've just worked so much, because it's always like this. How much is enough?
And it is never gonna be.
It's never gonna be. It's always that bar is always gonna go up, right? And someone will say, oh, I want a flat in Bandra, I want a flat in Malabaril, and that after Malabaril, people go to New York, and New York they want in Manhattan, and that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
So it is a never-ending
It's
journey.
a never-ending process, but obviously you've got finite time.
Yeah.
So don't discount the things that you were interested in when you were a child, right? Always give importance to that, because hobbies will stick with you forever.
Yes.
The business will not.
True.
Superb. Thank you so much for taking time out. And one thing I think we would like to discuss is what exactly the agencies can find with Sketchnote.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So basically, if you're an agency, even if it's a 50 people, 100 people agency, and you have challenges managing your internal environment and giving accountability and transparency to the client, then you should come to Sketchnote. We've got a great solution. We are one of the very, very few agency management solutions in the market right now.
Superb.
And we will actually handhold you and make sure that you succeed in your agency venture.
Superb. Cool. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
It was nice.
Thanks.
Thank you.